Welcome. Hello. Thank you for joining us. My name is Lisa Marie Simmons, and on my right here is, your left is Marco Cremeschini. And
Welcome.
we are so pleased to be here on alternative venues for jazz. And I want to thank Njari, who just helped us get into the room, and of course, Gail Boyd for having us on here. We are on here to talk to you a little bit about our new baby released on Rope-A-Dope. It's called Note Speak 12, and you can listen to it wherever you stream. Um, as I said, we're based on in Italy on Lake Garda, and the album features some really phenomenal, outrageous, great musicians, Italian musicians, and others. Um, so the core of the group who we tour with is, of course, myself. I'm the lead vocal, and I'm the composer of the lyrics and some of the melody. And Marco Cremeschini is the musical director. He's everything. He's keys, he's piano, he's arrangements. He just does everything. Phenomenal musical director. And then we're so lucky to have Federico Negri on drums and Marco Cacconi on electric bass and acoustic bass. And then we have Manuel Caliumi on alto saxophone and soprano saxophone as well. And then we have Laura Masotto who works with the violin. And then we have a lot more who are actually on the album. Like that's the core touring part of the band. But on the album, we have Denise Demi on vocals. We have my really great friend, Dion Draper on vocals. We have Ernest Ikwanga, who's based in Switzerland on guitars. We have Mauro Negri on tenor saxophone. There's a lot of people. We have Federico Pierantoni on trombone and Fulvio Sigurta, really good friend, on trumpet and flugelhorn, and then Donata Greca on flute. And then, born in Ghana, raised in the United States, we have the U.S. Grammy Award nominated jimbaist, Weedy Brema. So lucky and so happy to have him participate in the album, and as all of the musicians. And Maurizio Giannone is the last name on the list, who's also a percussionist who lent his enormous talent to the album. Wow, that's a lot of that's a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
We feel really, really lucky, and as I said, there's just enormous talent here in Italy, and we feel lucky to have those, and then to also have our our label mate Ernest on guitars. He's also with Rope-A-Dope, and is just such a joyous, beautiful musician, and merits your attention. So, yes, again, we just want to tell you a little bit about this album. I guess. The genesis of the album of Note Speak 12. So it's Note Speak 12 is actually the follow-up to the first album of this project. Marco and I are songwriting partners, musical partners in everything for quite a few years now. And this is our second major project that we've done together. And the first album of this series was called Note Speak Amori e Tragedia in Musica.
Tragedie.
Tragedia, grazie.
Tragedie. Amori
Amore
e tragedie
e
in musica.
Tragedia in Musica. That's the name of the first album. I can't even pronounce it. There you go. That one came
As
out.
it means?
It means love. Oh, that's a good point. It means love and tragedy in music, or musically
Yeah.
love and tragedy. And it was released, as I said, on Rope-A-Dope, as is our current album, Note Speak 12. And they're both multidisciplinary sort of jazz hybrids of poetry, along with other influences. But let's say the root of it, the base of it, is jazz, and they're quite different from one another. The first album and the follow-up that we just released. So let's see. With the first album of Note Speak, Amore Tragedie in Musica, we toured around Europe with that album, and we were lucky enough to go to the Jaipur Literature Festival, had a great time in India, and came back, and boom, the pandemic hit. and so we didn't really get to tour it as much as we would have liked to. But we did a lot of online concerts, and we're really happy to have some radio play and have some great reviews of that album. And while we were in the midst of the pandemic here in this house, this is our home studio that we're sitting in right now. I don't know if you can see behind us the Star Trek poster. That was like the first thing that Marco had to buy to put in into the studio. So it's our own spaceship. It's our own cockpit right here. It's the very first thing he bought. I think. Did you put that up before we even got the Schimmel, the piano? Yeah, I mean, first the poster was here. So, and it's the old school, it's the original Star Trek poster back there. You can't really see it very well here. Anyway, we just returned from debuting the album, I was saying, and we were here, and so much was going on. And we thought, well, we got time. Let's go ahead and work on the follow-up. So we got to work on it, and we were having a lot of conversations about what we wanted it to be, to speak to. And as I'm sure you all remember, it was such a divisive moment. It sort of seems like a turning point, or like a really there was somehow a line drawn underneath the divisiveness that has been fomenting and is still so present. And we wanted to speak to that. So as Marco and I would discuss, like, what are we going to talk about? I said, I really want to do an album that is about unity and empathy, and connection. And so on my binder, where I'm writing, where I write my poetry, I wrote at the top of the page, the thread that binds us. That's what I really wanted to talk about in the new album. So I said that to Marco, when I said, well, we got to go out and sprinkle some joy. And he came up with an idea for how we could like represent that musically. So what was your idea? I will translate if there's anything that you want to say in Italian.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
But your English is good enough. You can do it. Come on, I believe in you.
It's not very good my English.
I believe in you. You can do it.
Okay. I start to the idea to unity to the extreme, to put together some
two extremes
to
represent unity.
Exactly. To put together some extremes. I was thinking about what's one of the extreme in music, in European music. So maybe it's not the really extreme, but one of that is dodecaphony. Dodecaphony. What's in English?
It's dodecaphony.
Dodecaphony.
It's the same.
Dodecaphony music. Yeah, it's a musical
12 tone scale.
Exactly, 12 tone scale. It's a kind of music born in the 20th century at the beginning, and it was a rebellion. It was kind of a rebellion against the rules
of classical
rules. Yeah, to find. In the beginning of the 20th century, there was many of this kind of stuff in all the arts, not only music.
Right. Right.
So, and it was, I started to study this dodecaphony. So the opposites, I think, one of the opposites, but could be the other extreme, because I love jazz. I always play jazz. I look on the African concept. We bring the Afrobeat. We bring this particular rhythmic concept of Afrobeat, and
which was like sort of pioneered by Kuti, right?
Fela Kuti.
Fela Kuti. And he was very inspired by his mother, Funmilayo, I'm probably messing up the name, Ransom Kuti, and she was a spectacular activist.
Exactly.
And he traveled to America during the civil rights movement, like in the 60s. And so that's also like mixed with that, those
Exactly.
experiences.
Exactly. There's without speaking about music and everything, there's already something in common: the rebellion against
Yes.
against the power.
Yes.
From the Afrobeat and also from the Dodecaphonic.
Yes.
So they both try to do something different.
Right. And
Mhm.
so he decided to blend these. Can you tell them more about what you had to do to create a 12-tone scale? Did you do a separate one for each song? Oh, I'm pretending like I don't know, but can you?
No, no. I studied for a while Dodecaphonic. Actually it's a very simple thing, Dodecaphonic.
Can you explain it to the listeners,
Because
please, to the people who are here with us,
you only have to put, I don't know
if they can see it?
you
Maybe.
can see it. No, I don't see it.
Kinda. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
You only to decide the scale. You only to bring the 12 tone and decide your rule, your order, ordine,
Yeah, the order.
your rule.
Make up your own
Well,
rules about
yeah,
how what the
exactly,
order is.
exactly. Well, once you decide this, you are the owner of this of this series.
This series of
Series
notes.
of notes. Okay, that's in a few words is absolutely no. And then you can experiment anything you want. I try to experiment this, going to the jazz direction and bringing also the traditional, some of the traditional jazz or the traditional chords and bringing together all these things. I can't forget my jazz
Roots.
roots exactly.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's it for the dodecaphony parts. For we bring Tony Allen. You speak about Tony
yes.
Allen. You
Yeah,
speak about
there's a
Tony
song
Allen.
dedicated to Tony Allen, who's
Yeah,
absolutely amazing.
yeah.
Was an absolutely amazing drummer
He was one of the founder of
of
the
Afrobeat.
rhythmic concerts of Afrobeat.
That's right.
And then he said,
I don't know which
"Do you
quote you're
remember?"
looking for.
Yeah, Tony Allen.
There's so
The
many.
Charlie, the hi hat.
Oh, the hi-hat.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You don't remember? Okay, is
I
in
got
the
to get out
song.
the lyric
Is in the song.
to say it. I got the lyric here, I'm sure.
Okay.
But yeah,
Let's go.
so combining these, here it is. It's the hi-hat, Tony Allen said. It's the missing hi-hat that'll transform high life to Afrobeat, and it will spread. So that's just a quote from the song. Just so inspired by his work, and so we finish out the album with a tribute to Tony Allen. So yeah, when Marco came back to me with this musical idea and this idea of the 12-tone scale, that really struck me, and I thought, well, 12 is. I started thinking about the number 12, and I did a crazy amount of research because there was time. There was time to do it, nothing but time, and found like the number 12 has just such a deep history. It is considered a holy number in Christianity, in Islam, from the Greeks and mythology. It's just because of that became this ubiquitous number that is on our clocks. It's the months of the year, in many places, the numbers of people on a jury. It's an essential number for mathematicians and astronomers. So I became fascinated with that number, and I shaped the lyrics and the poetry sort of around that concept. And also I found, as I delved into 12, that it also represents empathy and unity. So I thought that was pretty perfect. that he had come up with that just from me saying, I want to talk about empathy and unity. And then he found this number that represents just that. And so within the poetry, I used some free verse, and blank verse as well. But I also used some more structured poetry, like the Rendu Prime, which is a 12-line French poetry, which consists of like a septet, 7 lines, and a cinquan, which is 5 lines. And then I also went to Italian sonnets, a Petrarchan sonnet, and modified it to 12 lines as well. And then I did multiples of 12 in other poems. So I just really honed in on that number and that idea, that concept to really represent what we were feeling at the time and what we still feel about sort of what's going on in the world today, and how essential that thread that binds us, that connection between all sentient beings that we believe exists, and to celebrate that. And so, as far as the lyrics are concerned, I wanted to talk about a lot of different things. We used sort of them, and I do this in a lot of the writing that I do. I use sort of my own personal story to speak to something that's larger. So from the micro to the macro. And so on the album, there is Last Supper, which is a protest against the death penalty. There's a song called I Think I Understand, which addresses self-harm. But we don't, like, even though we're not afraid to shy away from like those big topics, to again, within them, I try to do it with so much truth and honesty, and just looking for a way through those conversations to speak to, as I said, the thread that binds us, that I keep repeating. So yeah, so we had those big sort of subjects, and then we also talked about things like parallel universes and extraterrestrials, again, as a way of connecting, and nature we talked about, and joy and community. So we confronted a lot of big issues within the album, in the idea that as the poems are written, I tried to really be a storyteller. And so in each of as I was saying, in each of those big subjects, I tried to tell a little story, because I think that I'm a huge fan of storytelling as a way to know each other. You know, I'm a great reader. I love to read, and part of it is that reason of being able to connect through something that we can read or hear or witness. That's also, I mean, for all art, I think. And despite all this thinking that we're talking about that went behind the album, Marco especially made a really concerted effort, and I did too, to make sure that it was super accessible, you know, as far as leaving space for solos. That was
Absolutely.
a really conscious idea on your part, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a speech and the background music.
Right, exactly. It's not like
It's
two separate
no,
things.
absolutely. The music and the speech and the words and the improvisation, the solos is connected. It's
Yeah.
absolutely everything is music. The speech is music and the music is music, of course.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. It's so true. We really made a concerted effort to not try to create something that was separate. Like I would go up. My studio, my office is upstairs on the top of the house, and here's Marco down here. And sometimes I would write during this album, and I would hear him in the background underneath my writing, and we'd come together at the dinner table and be writing about the same thing. You know, we felt very, very connected, and we made sure as we worked with it that the musicians also felt comfortable to bring in their whatever they wanted to add
Yeah,
to it.
absolutely. We recorded in the studio, everything live. the music and the speech, there was any come si dice?
Come si dice?
No, there was everything
Separazione.
live. No, any
Oh,
sovrincisione.
oh yeah, there was not
Any
separate
there were
tracks. It was
separate
like
tracks.
all
There were
live.
all live. The speech was between. Absolutely, one of the tracks was completely improvised in the studio.
Individually one.
Individually one, exactly. So it was we never
Practiced it, rehearsed
practiced
it, nothing. Just
exactly. It
one
was
take,
was
and
a
that's it.
completely one take, exactly. And all the song came from one, maybe two takes, but usually we always bring the first take,
Yeah.
the first take. But because it was really
Spontaneous. Yeah, that's the right
exactly,
word. It's
exactly,
absolutely true.
spontaneous.
And the other thing that is interesting about this album is that when you see it live, it's never the same way exactly twice, because he's left so much room for improvisation, as a jazz musician has to do. And I constructed the lyrics as in the same way. Like I absolutely play with them, and depending on what the energy is in the house, then we adapt and change and sort of try to make it a communal experience. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was everything was prepared before, but everything was really spontaneous and very in jazz, in jazzy manner.
Yeah.
They're really jazz.
So like we created this structure, and we're very interested and intrigued by the structure, but then we left room to play within that structure, for ourselves and for the musicians. Yeah. And we want to bring it to the States. We'd really love to come and perform there, and we're hoping that that will happen, if everything goes our way, before the end of this year. So yeah, I guess we're just about near the end of our time. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we want to add. Just our huge gratitude for the fantastic players on the album. Oh, oh, look what Marco has.
We got this. They put Bremel down the cover because he's younger and he's got tattoo. But inside you can find me. You can find me. Not Bremel down. Me and Lisa. Okay.
With a 5-star review. Like, he's not going to say it. I'm going to say it.
Okay.
We are really lucky enough to have worked with Scott Thompson, PR.
We took away the Bremel Now pages.
Yeah, exactly. Just left ours. And I want to thank Scott. I think he's with us as well. And when he told me, oh, you got 5 stars in Downbeat, I was like, great. And then I wrote to the whole band, we got 4 stars in ground. I was so excited. And then Scott's like, no, you're wrong. It was 5. So Downbeat thinks it's a good thing. And I hope you guys do too. Yeah. So people that we want to thank, as we were saying, gratitude, so important. Lewis from Rope-A-Dope Records is the CEO of Rope-A-Dope. Oh gosh, I just feel so lucky to know him and to work with him. He's such a huge support, and just have created this wonderful friendship through the work of these 2 albums, and this album wouldn't. Yeah, he's a huge part of why it exists. He also is part of one of the producers on the album. So. Could not be luckier to have had this experience with him. Scott Thompson, like I said, Matt from Jazz Fuel is another person who has been really instrumental and helpful in this. James Moorhead, poet laureate, also was a great inspiration and help during the production of this album. Who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting somebody because what they say, it does take a village, and there's so many people that I could go on and
the people that help us with donation.
Yes. Natalia Semler
is
a great person to thank as well, and Sergey. Yeah, it's a hard life being a musician, and so on that note, it would be great if you wanted to go to Bandcamp and purchase the album. You can hear it for free on Apple Music or Amazon or Spotify or the rest of it. But if you want to help us continue, if you listen to it and you enjoy it, and you want us to continue making music, one thing that you can do is go to Bandcamp and find our page and buy the album. Oh, there it is. Just popped up. If you go by there, that means you'll be the producer of the next album. Like we could really use your support. It's not easy to move to tour and do all the rest of that without some of that support. But I see some questions here. We'll look for your music now that I've discovered you. Oh, thank you, DeFay. That's such a kind thing to say. Scott is the best. 100% agree. Congratulations, wishing you all aspire to what you achieve. I don't know who you are. There's no name, but what a kind thing to say. And may I return it back to you. And I hope that you also are continue to have success and are inspired. Powerful indeed. That's kind as well. Thank you. Nice comments and bravo. I appreciate that too from Craig Holiday. That's really nice of you. Thank you for saying that. And it looks like we've come pretty much to the end of our time. We've got just a minute left. Is there somebody else that I can say thank you to? There is. There's a wonderful book that I recommend. That's Ross Gay, and it's called The Book of Delights. I just came across it again. I read it while also working on this. I was reading some of his work, so he's been an influence on me, and I know that he's got a new book coming out about joy, and they're just wonderful essays that talk about the same sort of things that we want to talk about, and that's that fundamental connection that we all have, and the importance of nurturing it and holding on to it and believing in each other, and dialogue, and getting to know each other. Because speaking again about the divisiveness that exists, I think that with dialogue and with storytelling, we can approach each other rather than continuing in this sort of torment of separation. So yeah, we just want to sprinkle joy. And one of my common things that I say is that I want to capture the ephemeral and gift it. And that's exactly what we try to do with this album. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to come and be here with us, and for listening and sitting through this. We really, really, really appreciate it, and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.